G'day everyone, this is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Um, Volatile day on the market today in the US. This chart still kind of rules them all at the moment. It did try and break out of the upside, but got absolutely slammed back down to the downside. What was very interesting, I was watching it last night before bed. Basically, it looked like I'll get rid of this. That never really eventuated as much of a wedge, but um, when this was pulling up into here, especially on that little spike, Bitcoin wasn't doing anywhere near as much, but especially these four candles here, and like even when we spiked up and hit the top of this trend line, Bitcoin was doing bugger all. In fact, Bitcoin was coming down on this candle. But some of the alts were pumping. It looked like a lot of gaming coins were getting a bid. Couple of the ones in through here were getting bought up. It was weird, to say the least, because definitely not everything was running. But the fact that this chart, the total crypto market cap versus stables, was going up and Bitcoin was going sideways and down, that was suggesting something. Well, to me, I was looking at it thinking, shit, this could actually be a altcoin run, altcoin season. But so far, yeah, they hopefully that's not all the altcoins season that people get, because otherwise there's going to be some people that are just wrecked in this cycle. Altcoins haven't been my favorite this cycle, that's for sure. They've just been so unpredictable, and the money just moves around them so quickly that it's not just a throw money at anything and it goes up. Just wait a month and you'll get your money back plus 2-3x. That is definitely not the case this cycle. But yeah, obviously breakout to the upside, got rejected, both on big volume. So I'm kind of expecting potentially another retest up into this level. I don't know whether it'll keep going up. There's a couple of chances as to why it might, and I'll run through them in a little bit. But ultimately, until we've sort of broken above this and really confirmed above this, it's still more likely to come down than go up. And I'm still looking at it as a potential breakdown into this region here. That is my sort of target. And the longer we sort of take to get down there, the more likely it is that I think we actually find a base on this trend line here, which those that were here the other day know that that trend line picks up the bottom of the previous consolidation, that 6-month consolidation range. And also, it's not going to show it, not going far enough back, but it also picks up the very bottom of the bear market. So, fact is we've broken down this main one, which is probably going to lead to a bit of downside. At this stage, it looks like confirmation that we've broken down below this one, which picks up all the, or most of the lows, apart from that spike low the other day, of this current high range of Bitcoin. If we do bounce, I suspect this trend line here will provide significant resistance. That trend line is also done. Get rid of that. So realistically, I suspect this trend line here will sort of maintain itself as a resistance level for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin should just make its way down into this area. Might happen a little bit quicker eventually, especially if US markets actually drop, which they're not yet, not really. But yeah, that's the bias at the moment, is to the downside, with bounces along the way to pick up some liquidity, which I'll show that right now. So the liquidity that I'm talking about is stuff like this in here. I'll just go to model 1. So the stuff that comes into the charts as you're dipping, typically Bitcoin, once it finds a bit of a bottom, it likes to pull up into these areas before actually taking further downside. We did leave quite a bit of liquidity up around the 97K mark. I was a little surprised with that. If you go into the Model 3, it actually, if you look at it over a week or so, yeah, so fair chunk of liquidity in here, like 1.64 million each level. There's like probably nearly $10 million worth of liquidity just up to the 100K mark. Seems like a lot, and it is a lot. We're getting a lot more coming into the downside though, so that's potentially going to help price drop. But when you look at it on sort of the 6-month chart, even that 100K level isn't huge. Like, you've got a lot more up here into the hundreds of millions, and then up here there's, you know, probably a few billion really. But also down in here, that's quite a bit. So at this stage, I would say it doesn't have to go up into the 100K mark. It is a good target if we do want to spike higher on some good news or something like that. But it's a long way to go to get up to 107 from where we're at, especially when it looks like it wants to go further down based on that other chart. Ooh. Oh, excuse me. Little bit of CBD increase off the lows there, so that it seems like, from a futures perspective at least, people are looking to buy Bitcoin, or long Bitcoin. Spot is a little bit of a laggard in comparison, which don't like to see. I'd prefer to see spot go up. Interestingly, spot CBD actually was going up quite a bit through this low here. I don't know that they really managed to sell their Bitcoin, but certainly there's a lot of people selling it on the way down. So at the moment, it just seems like a retail shakeout. Still a heck of a lot of green on the bid-ask delta. Like, that is a lot. Typically, we don't see runs of that much green. So we could have found the bottom here. I don't think so, but I have closed my short and I've made a little long just for today, just to pick up the vector candles that are left in here. Show that. Best way to show that is just on this chart here. So just on the 1 hour, we got some dirty great big vector candle in here. We may reject off this level. We don't always have to come straight into these, but I've set my take profit at just over 96K, just the middle of this vector candle, because it is a fairly high probability that that's at least where it goes. especially when momentum sort of looks like it's changing to the upside. Yeah, on fairly high BBWP too. So spike up in here wouldn't surprise me, but then throughout today, I'd kind of expect not too much action until the US session again tonight. The UK had a little bit to say yesterday, but the European market had a little bit to say, but it then got smashed by the US market. So interesting that 50 EMA on the 1 hour is providing a fair bit of resistance for us, and that point of control was the point of control. It did not close really much higher than that. So yeah, for the time being, value area low still seems like a good target, probably a better target than where it's at now for a bounce. It hit these levels. The bounce is probably going to be for people buying this as a support level, which fair enough. It looks like a bit of a support level, but I don't expect it to really be the turnaround point at this stage. There's just too much confluence down in this area here with that previous trend line. And the total versus stables. So Ethereum's actually going a little bit different. So Ethereum did benefit quite a bit from the pump in alts yesterday, while Bitcoin was basically going sideways. Ethereum did have a little run. Interesting, they might be putting in a higher low here too. So to me, this could actually be the little alt run that people are talking about, have been talking about since, I don't know, like a year and a half ago. We haven't got it yet, but this is a good sign. If Ethereum can sort of hold this level, reclaim this previous sort of resistance support level, and definitely if it can reclaim this, the top trend line here, then I'd suggest Ethereum is going to go on a pretty decent run, and alts are probably going to go with it. Like a fair chunk of alts will go with it. It's just at the moment it's still low liquidity environment. Just be careful of the rotation throughout the alts. So it's to play this, you're going to have to be basically watching everything you want to trade and watching it on the hourly and just picking good bounce points for them, good momentum, BBWP setups. It's going to be tricky to trade them. LTC, that was an interesting breakdown of that trend line there. Haven't retested it yet. And that's the thing, most alts are so beaten down. There's trend lines above them now that could provide resistance at any stage, and it'll basically switch into another alt. Sol has been punished quite a bit, right down into the wicks from the other day. That big flush that we had. Still a little bit to come potentially. 168 is going to be an interesting level for it. Potentially 157 is another bounce level though as well. So the level that it's at, basically it hit 175, which was, it's recovered these wicks here. So Sol actually doesn't look too bad here. The fact that some of the alts look like they want to move differently to Bitcoin, they're not exactly doing it yet, some of them. But there is a chance that some of these may actually go on a run and leave Bitcoin a little bit behind. I just don't know that if Bitcoin does drop like it looks like it should, whether the alts will be able to really put in a massive altcoin season. Some big drops over the last few hours, though. Good recovery. Like you want to see a V-shaped recovery, kind of like this. Probably not a bad buy level on some of these. Just got to be careful because there's going to be a fair bit of liquidity in this sort of area where that wick was from the other day. That's Sui. Yeah, see, Sui could drop a hell of a lot more. We're still putting in effectively lower highs. So beware of more bull traps like that. ETH BTC longs are still going up. They're starting to taper off though. They must actually be getting, oh, some of them might be making some money for a change. A little bit. The ones that are bought in from about here, maybe. Guys that are bought in before that, probably not. Not quite yet. Yeah, look, it looks like potentially there's going to be rotation into alts, but the rotation through the alts is going to be a tricky one to navigate too. Like, don't buy into pumps. You probably buy into the top, would be my recommendation. Find the ones that have held up well compared to the others so far in this cycle, and try and get the ones that haven't actually made a decent move to the upside yet. Like, for instance, Tron had a pretty decent move over the last few days. Could go further. It's a pretty decent reset on momentum. Looks something similar to this, to be honest. But yeah, that's going to be the play, I think. Just looking quickly. Again, don't worry about this. Still working on the algo. Momentum's. This is actually a reasonable buy setup. So CBD momentum is up. Stochastic momentum is up. That's on a fairly long time frame. I've got that. It's like an 80 period momentum. And when I was looking at it the other day, basically when momentum's coming off a low on both CBD and normal price action, and you've got CBD RSI turning to the upside, and the moving averages turning to the upside, plus your MACD is shifting to the upside as well. That's typically not a bad buy scenario. Obviously, I've got to fix the code in here. That shouldn't be taking a short there, but that's a positive sign that we may actually go a little bit higher. Not as long as. See, the issue is we've really contracted in the volatility of the linear regression channel. So it's rare that you sort of break out and stay out of this channel for very long. We did there a little bit yesterday. But typically you'll move back into it pretty quickly. Like here, spike outside, move back in. That's a pretty good sell point there. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is all the momentum here is down. So you just got to be careful with this sort of setup that it may not last too long. Like these little pumps may be fairly short-lived. It's already relaxing a little bit after taking out the coming into the wick of this vector here. So yeah, caution. It looks like Bitcoin wants to move further to the downside. It's kind of it's getting close to retesting the top of this old trend line here on the 15-minute though. That was a different setup to the other one. So the 1 hour actually is a bit better. So the 1 hour, there is more room to the upside, but you still got 50 EMAs below the 200, which is below the 800. 13 EMAs below as well. Bounces into the 200, into 96, 900. Pick up the rest of those vectors and a bit more liquidity. Yeah, maybe. Could even spike a little bit higher than that. But at the moment, I'd actually be looking at the 50 EMA as a likely rejection point. Momentum is more to the downside still on the 1 hour. It's trying to change that, but not doing a great job of it at the moment. All right. What else are we looking at? So we're still kind of in no man's land with the monthly pivots as well. Yeah, be interesting. See what happens after we recover this, sort of at least partially recover this vector. I suspect it'll reject to the downside, but see, cyclic RSI on the 1 hour is getting into a good sort of area where it could reset pretty quick too, but probably wouldn't get too excited until we actually have a couple of closes above this top band, the top of that ribbon. And it's still got a fair bit to the downside that it can go. If we want to flush like this, we can still flush from here, no worries. Okay, but this is a good reset. So, if we're really getting into low values on cyclic RSI and we're getting in close to this monthly pivot down around the 91K mark, then that would be a really good spot for a bounce. It's also, it would bring you pretty close to this trend line here. And that trend line, we just zoom out, actually comes through some of these lows here on the way up. Okay, which would probably actually pick up the it'd probably pick up the same sort of trend line here. So that trend line goes through the same lows, but on the total versus stables chart. That's a fair way away from here, but Bitcoin can move pretty quick to the downside. So caution, watch for key breaks, but sort of momentum above this trend line here is required to go on a decent run at this stage. In terms of stocks, sentiment, that was still from Friday. We haven't had a reset on that yet. Just don't worry about that. IBIT, still nothing major coming through. Is that today? That's not even today. Was that market closed today? Huh. I didn't realize. I knew part of the market was closing at different times. I would have thought this was trading that. Unless it's. I could have sworn I changed that. Yeah. It's not doing today. It's Friday. Yeah, right. Okay. Ignore that. There's yeah. Okay. So CME's open. Hmm. All right. So Coinbase again didn't trade. Interesting trade at the bottom there, though. That seems like a buy. Were any of these trading today? Doesn't look like it. Either that or volume leaders just had a day off. Oops, hang on, is that one? Oh, what the frick? All right. Nothing to really report there. Weird. I didn't think I was living that far in the future, so I'm just going to assume that the markets are not open today. Oh, this is the target here. When you've got such massive liquidation levels on CoinEnc like this on Binance, that's typically your target. CBD is not really going up that much too on this decent run, so it might stop at the first one here, but I'd be surprised if it didn't at least pick up the second one, which would be picking up that vector candle there. It could come into that one though as well. That's a pretty good resistance level, up around the 96 400 ish, a little bit higher. it that they're massive shorts because if you're looking at this normally, this little grass here would actually be that sort of width. The fact that the grass is so small and you got massive spikes there, that they're pretty good targets for price action. Obviously, these guys got away with it though. Tried to get up there into them, but just couldn't make it. All being slammed. So yeah, watch out for the spike. That would be into the 200 EMA too on the 15 minute. So pretty good level there. 96 400. I reckon I'll close my long. I'd be pretty surprised if we get much further than that. I got to sign up to CoinApe now to get the friggin' large order map. Another $15 a month. Bloody hell. Information's expensive these days. All right. I think that's about it, really. There's not much else to go through. Um, yeah, the markets are not open. According to this, that's not a great close on the equal weight cues there too. It's like it wants to roll over. Friday. Um, anything open today? The futures look closed. Oh no, futures are open. And the futures are holding too. Pretty flat. I guess up a little bit in the futures. Nothing to really write home about, nothing massive. Yeah, pretty flat. Finding resistance at this level here. Got a little bit of vector candle recovery to do up here if it wants it. Might go a little bit higher. UK 100. Yeah, the daily. It's had a nice little bounce off that trend line. Be interesting to see if it can blast through this vector candle. Japanese market, flat. Is the bonds market open today? No. High yield junk, not open either. What about yields? Are they trading today? Nope. Copper is. So copper's pulling back pretty hard. Interesting to see if it finds a bit of support off the 20 or the 13 or the 9. Is that what I got on there? Yeah, 9, 13. Gold, finding a little bounce here. Interesting if we get consolidation under this trend line here. If it breaks through that, it'd be just be a rocket ship. At the moment, though, it's not pointing that way. It's pointing downside. Silver going okay. I actually closed out my silver and my gold. I got a little bit of gold left, but most of them I'm happy with the profit off them. What I have been looking at lately, I've been just shifting money into these sort of things. So this is on the Australian market, but basically this is a bear market ETF. Obviously, these things just go south when the market's going up, but they're a pretty good hedge. So I've just been dollar cost averaging in on the way down here, but I've started to put a little bit more in. I don't really care if it comes down to $2. Basically, if this is my protection against a massive bear market, because from here, I could double that money pretty easily. Like if we go into a big recession or anything like that, then it should spike pretty good. So that's my play at the moment. And the thing is, like, gold will probably hold up over time and it'll get a bid, but it typically comes down with the market as well. So just remember skew did pump on Friday. Didn't really clear any highs, but it's a pretty good indicator that things might go further up. But at the same time, the VIX 1 day is suggesting downside. So it's going to be a lot of market movement, a fair bit of volatility in the next week or so, I would suggest. Interestingly, though, global liquidity is showing movement to the upside. So that does support movement to the upside in general, including crypto. So this is the thing. We could be coiling sideways on markets, just getting ready for the next pump up. It's just we're getting close to top, so I'm going to be taking profit on things that I've had running profit for a while. All right, that's about it. Catch you later.